Hi, and welcome to No Place Like It, a podcast of fictional homes. I'm your host, Talia Ulrich, and together we'll be exploring the ins and outs of imagined living spaces. Today we're in 19th century England, and we're strolling through the village of Highbury in Jane Austen's Emma. There are no spoilers ahead, so if you don't know the story, then you must be one of the lucky few who gets to experience the novel for the first time. The village of Highbury is described as a large and populous village, almost amounting to a town. It's a great example of life in a country village and offers us a look at village community. The titular character, Emma Woodhouse, is neglectful of her role in the community, so her idea of the village is limited. We view Highbury so often through her perspective that it almost seems to function solely for her benefit. In order to see Highbury as it is, and not just how Emma pictures it, we have to look at the various locations in and about the village, beginning with the first establishment introduced, Mrs. Goddard's School. The village boarding school has a great reputation in the county for the quality of education offered, for its location in Highbury, and also for its headmistress. Mrs. Goddard prioritizes her students, giving them plenty of healthy food from the garden and letting them run around in the summer. Through her school, Mrs. Goddard has established a connection with the land. The garden displays this association in that, one, it must be tended to, and thereby creates a physical relationship between the gardener and the land. And two, she ensures that her students benefit from the profits of the land. The emphasis on education as well as health demonstrates her holistic approach to her students' well-being. It's also important to note that Jane Austen used the particular phrase, reasonable price, in describing the school, which demonstrates a commitment to the community and not limiting a good education to the wealthy. It's one of the most important locations in Highbury, and yet Emma only sees the place in terms of what it could do for her, namely, and the female students providing her with some company. When she does find a companion from the school named Harriet Smith, Emma only plunges herself deeper into a self-absorption which considers her world first and disregards Harriet's world and the importance of her relationships with other villagers. Emma decides early on that she will improve Harriet, bettering her social standing and performing her opinions and manners. With this as the basis for their relationship, it is hardly to be wondered at that Emma does not register any element of Harriet's life outside of the association between the two. One such element is Harriet's relationship with the Martins of Abbey Mill Farm. Emma only sees the Martins' home in terms of how it fits into her world, namely the fact that it doesn't. She scoffs at the idea of Harriet marrying a farmer, mostly because she herself cannot bear the association with what she perceives to be a lowly station in life, even though she knows how highly her friend Mr. Knightley thinks of the Martins. In fact, when Emma first acquaints herself with Harriet, she finds the description of the farm and its family quite amusing, only developing a dislike to them when she realizes Robert Martin has feelings for Harriet. Since Abbey Mill Farm and the Martins do not fit into the world Emma has constructed for herself, she is unable to allow the possibility of their being connected to her. Her snobbishness is such that she can only look down on the Martins rather than consider them worthy of notice. Emma does not allow the Martins to actually be part of the community, even though they shop at the village general store and visit Harriet and do business in and around Highbury. She talks and behaves as though Abbey Mill Farm were a faraway place to which one is banished. When Mr. Knightley praises Robert Martin, he offers a stark contrast to Emma's view, one that sees Abbey Mill Farm and its resident family as part of the landscape and the community. When Harriet gushes about her stay at the farm, she registers the house with 2 parlors, 8 cows, and future summer house is a significant part of her world. Both Mr. Knightley and Harriet Smith provide views of the community that oppose Emma's, views that consider others of different social rank as important members of their own communities. This inclusive attitude is also displayed by some of Emma's other acquaintances who socialized with Robert Martin. It's up to Emma to decide to either give way to the viewpoints demonstrated by Harriet and Mr. Knightley, or to stand alone in snubbing the Martins in their role in Highbury. Emma's objection to the Martins' social rank is repeated in her attitude towards another lower status family, one who is central to the Highbury social scene. As one of the most popular citizens of Highbury, the chatty and good-natured Miss Bates is often the center of any social scene of which she is a part. Like her sociable personality, the moderately sized apartment where she lives with her mother is also a central feature of the village. Their lack of wealth is reflected in the mode and dimensions of their place, which is located on the drawing room floor of a house that belongs to people in business, indicating to us that the Bates family does not own their home. Although the apartments are small and her income sparse, Miss Bates delights in hosting visitors, offering them sweet cake, and expressing concern over their navigating the dark and narrow stairs. Miss Bates takes an active interest in everyone's lives, which joins the village together as she practices hospitality towards everyone in the town. In considering everyone her friend, Miss Bates disregards class lines and rank in her treatment of others. Not far from the Bates apartment lies Highbury's central commercial location, a sort of general store frequented by the village citizens and named Ford's Glove Shop. Harriet shops there and runs into Robert Martin and his sister Elizabeth, a happenstance that reinforces the community's consumer habits. Just about everybody in the novel goes there to run errands or conduct business. In fact, when an outsider, Frank Churchill, first visits the town, he immediately recognizes the place, even though he's never been there before. To Frank, Ford's ubiquitous quality makes it the ultimate induction into the community, saying out loud, "Pray, let us go in, that I may prove myself to belong to the place, to be a true citizen of Highbury." Although he is joking, there is a grain of truth to what Frank is saying, as the villagers do patronize their local businesses. Emma understands his patriotic localism and tells him that his shopping there will solidify his reputation. Ford's represents mercantile interests, but its location places one in the middle of the village, where it draws customers into the community and keeps them involved in the daily happenings of each other's lives. We've now seen 3 of the village's locations, and we'll now explore the locations outside of the village, starting with the main character's home. As the heroine's home, Hartfield figures prominently in the novel. Though it plays a large part in Emma's life and our Highbury experience, the Woodhouse estate does not itself make up a significant role in the village. Though appreciable on its own, Hartfield is more of a secondary property, described as sort of a notch in the Donwell Abbey estate, to which all the rest of Highbury belonged. As a satellite estate, Hartfield is spatially separated from Highbury, blocking out unwelcome visitors with a big iron gate. It's a small but neat and pretty modern house. Little is noted about Hartfield's land contribution to the community, whether the land produces foods for nourishment or not, with one exception. It is mentioned that the Woodhouses keep pigs, which we know because Emma sends pork to the Bateses. The provision of food demonstrates generosity towards the community in taking what is their own and giving a portion of it to Mrs. and Miss Bates, in using their resources to benefit those less fortunate. In addition to this generous act, the Woodhouses practice community in their hospitality. It is revealed early on in the novel that Emma's father, Mr. Woodhouse, enjoys hosting visitors at Hartfield. He practices generosity in having a few Highbury citizens over for dinner. His concern for their health shows comically how much he cares for his friends, but also demonstrates a disregard for their wants and needs, and pays more attention to what he perceives to be their wants and needs. "Mrs. Bates, let me propose your venturing on one of these eggs. An egg boiled very soft is not unwholesome, Saul understands boiling an egg better than anybody. I would not recommend an egg boiled by anybody else, but you need not be afraid. They are very small, you see. One of our small eggs will not hurt you, Miss Bates. Now I might help you to a little bit of tart, a very little bit. Ours are all apple tarts. You need not be afraid of unwholesome preserves here. I do not advise the custard. Mrs. Goddard would say you to have a glass of wine, a small half glass, put into a tumbler of water. I do not think he could disagree with you. Although he practices hospitality, Mr. Woodhouse's gentle selfishness does not contribute to the community because even though he cares greatly about his friends, he does not allow them to be the judge of their own wants and needs. This is also shown in the first chapter when he objects to Emma's positive characterization of her friend and governess Miss Taylor's recent marriage to Mr. Weston. But where is the advantage of a house of her own? This is 3 times as large. While Emma sees the value for Miss Taylor in having her own place, Mr. Woodhouse thinks that Hartfield's size should be big enough, good enough for a governess. An understanding of place and the attraction of having one's own place is completely lost on Mr. Woodhouse, although Emma here demonstrates her understanding of its importance. The value of owning one's own land is also shown in Mr. Weston's anticipation at upgrading from a small house to an estate near Highbury. A large part of owning and settling down in a permanent home lies in establishing the connection between location and personhood, in addition to the status landowning brings. Hartfield is tied intricately to the Woodhouses, particularly as Emma demonstrates. She tells Harriet, "You are a great deal too necessary at Hartfield to be spared to Abbey Mill." Since it is hardly to be supposed that Harriet contributes to running the household, what Emma means here is Harriet is too necessary to her to be spared. In setting up Hartfield as a metaphor, or rather a metonym, for herself, Emma demonstrates an understanding of place as connected to personhood, an understanding which also explains her comprehension of Miss Taylor, now Mrs. Weston's, need for a place of her own. From the beginning of the novel, Emma demonstrates her respect for Mrs. Weston's right to a house of her own, and this respect is reinforced in her attitude to the Westons' home, called Randall's. Emma does not see Randall's as suited to her own purposes except for pleasant visits with Mr. and Mrs. Weston. In fact, it is at Randall's that a rare scene not involving Emma takes place. When Mr. Knightley visits Mrs. Weston, the two spend their time talking about Emma, yet the heroine herself is nowhere to be seen, which sets apart Randall's as a place that is not utilized for Emma's benefit alone. While Emma herself does not attempt to appropriate Randall's for her own use, the estate is not free from the selfish plans of others. An example of one such appropriation is shown at a party in the winter when Mr. Weston announces his desire that everyone might be snowed in at his place. As the property owner, Mr. Weston has every right to use his house in any way he chooses, but to ignore its small size in his hope to accommodate a large party overnight is to reject a communal practice that considers everyone else's comfort as well as wife's wishes. Mrs. Weston hesitates to host an overnight party, which makes it clear that Mr. Weston did not communicate his desires to her beforehand, which reinforces the lack of consideration in his wishes. While Mr. Weston's inclination for more communal conviviality is well-intentioned, he neglects the people at his party by putting his own wants over the needs of others. It is not just Mr. Weston who ignores his house's size in his eagerness to be host, but his son, Frank Churchill, also attempts to appropriate the house for his own desires. When Frank first has the idea for a dance in Highbury, he will not rest until he can have his ball. Frank and Emma first measure out Randall's parlors to figure out its sizing, so eager in their enthusiasm that they hope one room is larger than the other, disregarding Mr. Weston's words to the contrary. While Mrs. Weston is aware of the logistics and problems of hosting a dance at her house, Frank is impatient to have a dance, even willing to forego the comfort of potential dancers. When Emma objects and says the room is too small for 20 people to dance in, Frank persists, willfully blinded by his desire for a dance. It is only after they have found an accommodating location for the dance that he admits to Emma that he was wrong concerning the size of Randall's parlor room. Frank attempts to appropriate Randall's for his own ends and puts his desires above everything else. While one of Highbury's satellite estates is thus used by its master and his son, another is the metonymic epicenter of the commitment to maintain the community. Donwell Abbey, where Mr. Knightley lives, is the largest estate mentioned in the novel. Mr. Knightley is well aware of the particular nuances and details of his land, as he tells his brother about his worries concerning the movement and placement of a path which the village citizens frequent. He tells his brother that he's thinking of moving a path so it doesn't cut through the meadows, but he wants to make sure it doesn't inconvenience the people of Highbury. In his consideration, Mr. Knightley puts the town's needs before his own. He only wants to move the path a little to the right, but above all, he wishes not to give the Highbury villagers any headache as to their navigation. In addition to his thoughtful landscaping, Mr. Knightley also provides the fruits of his land for others to enjoy, as evidenced by Miss Bates talking at length about the apples from his trees, saying that he sends her and her mother a sackful every year. His generosity in sending the Bateses apples every year connects his relationship with the land to his relationship with the community. Mr. Knightley contributes to the community's preservation by his concern that others need not be inconvenienced at his expense or to go hungry while he has food to offer. In this, he embodies what community should look like. Unlike Emma, he willingly engages with those in his social circles as well as those she considers beneath him. It comes as no surprise that Mr. Knightley represents an ideal model of community, especially since he understands how things should work and he is guided by clear principles. His judgment and principles make him a stable and consistent character, one who is safe and non-threatening to the community. These elements also extend to his estate at Donwell Abbey, making it a secure location for Highbury citizens, a sort of welcoming haven. Emma sees the house's steadiness of character, undoubtedly an extension of its master's, when she visits. She's thinking, it was just as it ought to be, and it looked what it was. The reliability inherent in Mr. Knightley and his estate contributes to the ethical practices of community, and that the Highbury citizens can always count on him to look out for them and put their needs first. As an extension of its master, Donwell Abbey contributes to Highbury's community in both its physical and metonymic forms, creating a direct association between land and community that is centered in Mr. Knightley. Today's episode was drawn from a major research project I did while studying for a master's in English literature. Rather than reading it out loud, which would have taken over 2 hours, I chose to pull snippets of it instead. You could buy the full project on my link in bio. The script and research references are available for free download as well. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, rate, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening.